Hello and welcome to a Connection Made Design project recap. My name is Andy and I want to take a moment and walk you through one of our Squarespace design projects. It's my hope that you find these project recaps a source of inspiration for your own Squarespace projects. In this video, I want to show you a project that I did for HiView Solutions. Now, when Miles from HiView Solutions reached out to me, one of the biggest things that he needed was help with customizing his Squarespace website. He knew there were other providers out there who had great looking websites offering the same services that he offered, and they were bringing in a lot of revenue each year. So he wanted to make sure that as he developed his business, that his website spoke professionalism. It spoke high quality service. And the truth is that our websites, they speak so much to the services that we have to offer, fair or unfair, that people, when they view your website, they're going to make a connection between the look of your website and the quality of the services that you provide. And so if you can offer the greatest services in the world in your industry, but if your website doesn't speak that, if your website doesn't communicate that, then there's a really good chance they're going to move on to other providers. So Miles and I linked up and we looked over some of these other websites and we discussed what they were doing well, what we can implement into his website. So again, Miles, he had already started his website in Squarespace. He already chose a template, put a lot of content into his website, but it just wasn't really at that professional level that he needed and wanted. So here's a look at what he put together. So first thing, on the homepage that he put together is we see a banner image here. While it's a nice photo, it doesn't really speak or have anything to do with his business. So when people come and they view his website, there's no connection made between that banner and why they're there and what he has to offer. And so your website, your opening banner is going to be the thing that is going to speak loudest to the people who come to your website. And if it doesn't speak and it doesn't make a connection between why they're there and what you have to offer, they're going to move on. And so that was only one thing. Another thing that we wanted to do with his website that he had put together was we wanted to break up the content into more consumable sections. And what I mean by that is, as you scroll down through here, there's obviously a starting point, but I'm not quite sure where the end is. And so as I scroll through here and I read, I have to read all of this to kind of get the full picture of what's going on. Now there's a line break here, but it doesn't really offer much of a break in the content. It doesn't offer much of a breath in me kind of consuming and reading and evaluating this content. So we wanted to break this up in a way that was very clear. Here's a starting point. Here's an end point. Focus on this section. Move on. Here's a starting point. Here's an end point. Focus on this section. So we wanted to do that. Another thing we wanted to do was, as you'll see here, these icons as far as size and style, they're just all over the place. So we wanted to bring a uniformity to that, both in size and in look and appearance. Another problem he was having was, he put these icons in there, and for the most part, these look pretty good. But when you went to a smaller browser size, maybe like on a phone, so here's a single column layout that you would see on a mobile phone, some of these icons are way too big. And then when you go down to this section, they even look very low quality. And so they were just far too big. So we wanted to make sure, again, not just in appearance, but also in size, that they were proportional to the section and to the content that they were supporting. One of the things that we learned while we looked at some of the other providers out there is that it seemed to be an industry standard to have a very robust footer. So a bit of a sitemap in the footer. And as you could see here, there's not much of anything to his footer here that he started with. So we wanted to design and develop something that was very, very normal for the industry that he was in. And then lastly, one of the things we wanted to do was we went over the whole site, but one area that we wanted to really focus on was his blog. So you could see here his old blog. When you visit the page, there's the most recent post, and then you read through this and you go to another one and there's another post, and then you read through that, and then so it's just a long list of blog posts. And so we wanted to break that up, and we wanted to highlight and feature certain things. We wanted to make it very easy for the viewer to go and look and say, okay, this is what's speaking to me. This is what is of interest to me. I'm going to read this. And so we did that. And then finally, for future upkeep, he wanted to have a way that he could continue on in the uniformity of the blog page layout. And so I'll show you all of that. But first, let's start with the homepage on the website. So again, here's the old layout. And I already mentioned all the things that we wanted to do, and I feel like we really accomplished that. So let's take a look at the new website. So here it is. This is the Fulton template. We moved him from the Bedford template over to this template. One of the things I really like about this template is the ability to index pages. It's one of the easiest ways to separate your content into stackable, separated sections. But before we get to that, as soon as this page loads, what we see is a banner image that has something to do with his industry. There's people sitting around a table. There's business going on. There's a very clear call to action with a form here. So right away when a viewer comes here, they can take a next step, and there's a connection made between why they're there and what he has to offer. And so this is a successful banner for his business, for his industry. And then as we scroll down, we'll start to see the indexing of pages that I was talking about. As you'll see here, they're stacked on top of one another. They have different backgrounds. And so what this does is it creates separation in the content. So now as a viewer, as I'm going through here, I see a starting point and I see an end point. I know if I start to read this section, if I start to view this section, there's a starting line and there's a finish line. I don't need to wonder how long I'm committing to this content. I know right away, here's the end. Here's what I need to focus on. And then as we go down more, we'll see that icon section here, where it was a bunch of different sizes and colors, and just a mess. And now they're a lot more uniform. We gave it a black and white treatment. We made them all circle, so they had a similar look. And most importantly, when we go into a single column view here, they don't get really big. They're still the same size. And so it looks good. It's laid out good. It's uniformed. And as we go down even further, as we saw on this original page, those icons were really big. Some of them are low resolution when they got that stretched that big. And so as we scroll down, we'll see that they're properly proportioned to the content that they're supporting. And that's what an icon is. It just needs to give some support to the content it's teamed up with. It doesn't need to steal the show. It doesn't need to overwhelm. It provides that little bit of visual dynamic and helps break up text content with something nice to look at, something relevant to look at. And so these icons now do that. They don't overwhelm, but they help support the text that they're teamed up with. And at the bottom here, we added another call to action. And then here's that more robust industry standard footer that we designed with a sitemap. And then finally, the last thing we talked about was his blog post. So his original blog was just this long list of posts, one after another, and there wasn't separation. There was no start or end to it. But now, on his new blog page, we used graphics as thumbnails and we put everything in a grid mode. So now when a viewer goes here, they can look for the things that are most relevant to them, and they can click on it and read it. And so it just helps break up that long list of posts. But the cool thing is they can go here, and if they want to view everything, they can view everything. And Miles, he can choose to highlight and put whatever he wants in this grid. And so if there's something that is pressing, if there's something that he really wants to feature, he can make that the first thing that people see here. If there's a category that he wants to make all these, a certain category that he wants to focus on, then he can take his blog post, and as long as he's categorizing his blog post, he can, in this grid summary, he can say, just display everything that's categorized in event management. Maybe there's 10 different posts about event management. Well, those will be the 10 things that show up here. Now, to keep this consistent, to keep this look going, Miles wanted something that was easy, intuitive. It was low cost. He didn't want to pay someone to put a graphic together every time he was doing a blog post. He didn't want to learn Photoshop or pay for Photoshop. So he needed something that would help him do this consistently. And so we came up with a really cool solution for him. We came across this site called canva.com, and it's very simple for people to use. Beginner designers can even jump in here and start putting graphics together. What we did for him was a simple, photo, color overlay, and then some kind of typography on top of that. And so as long as those three elements stayed consistent as far as font size and those layers, photo, color overlay, and the typography, then there was going to be a consistency to his blog page. And also just size. I noticed so many people who maybe they are adding photos to their blog post as thumbnails, but they just grab any photo they can and they put it up there, and when it goes to a grid layout, it just looks like a mess because there's so many different sizes. It doesn't look uniform. It doesn't look really tight. And so with Canva, we have 1,500 pixels by 1,000 pixels tall. And so he can easily just duplicate this, put a different photo in the background, change the type, put a different symbol there if he wants. The color overlay stays. He saves it and he uploads it. So it's that simple. So anyways, I hope that this video gave you some ideas for your own Squarespace project. Some of the big takeaways is consistency. So graphic designs, whether it's using thumbnails, whether it's using icons, be consistent in size, be consistent in style throughout your website, or at least throughout sections of your website. Another thing is, what is your banner image speaking? Is it making a connection between why people are at your website and what you have to offer, or is it random? So that's very important. Is there a call to action that's very distinct as soon as people jump on your page? What is that call to action? What is that next step for them? And then finally, are you breaking up your content into very consumable sections? Is there a start? Is there an end to what you're doing, to what you're communicating? Do people know how much they have to be committed to consume the content that you're providing in a specific section? So all these things together can create a very tight, high-level professional website for your business, your company, your church, for your portfolio, whatever it may be. So again, thanks for taking the time to watch this video. I hope that you get some inspiration out of it. You get some ideas out of it for your own Squarespace site. If you have any questions or would like help designing your Squarespace site, please reach out to us.